unbelievable.
Thanks to Google, we finally know how this meme ends.
Are you serious right now? I can't believe you! You are unbelievable.
Quadruped robots are just about to conquer badminton.
Leveraging all the robot's joints and using only onboard perception.
AI vision models that can interpret sign language have gone from like pretty good to problem solved. Robots are now getting human-like spines. Comment below. No, I'm not ready for that to be on my desk. Grimlock, you're perfect. Atlas got a new vision system. He now sees Superhuman, of course. Yeah, he's now walking with 3D spatial awareness with insane resolution. Look, another creator already used VO3 to put themselves inside Jurassic Park. How come I didn't think of that? That would have been so good for a short. She deserves it. Fortune favors the bold.
Okay, guys, nice and easy, or he will definitely bite your hand off. Got it? All right.
Turns out GPT 4.0 also experiences cognitive dissonance, just like us. There's some new AI augmented models that improve chemical grouting predictions in complex soils. Google's getting sick of Hollywood always using AI for doomer content. You know, Terminator, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Ex Machina. Instead, they're thinking positive propaganda. We're gonna look into intermediate tokens, totally underrated. With this paper, Beyond Semantics, the Unreasonable Effectiveness of Reasonless Intermediate Tokens. There's a new transformer architecture that emulates imagination and higher level human mental states. And the CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, is going to break down why we should be expecting a white-collar bloodbath in the next few years. But first, let's go visit Alan's conservative countdown to AGI and see what we've got. Oh, still at 94, man. It's been stable for a bit. It does look like there's one new supporting argument. Language models are capable of metacognition monitoring and control of their internal activations. Oh, we better look into this one too. Okay, I'll add it to the research section of the video. But first, if you want to support the channel, join my Patreon. We have 97 members right now. I just need 3 more. 100's such a great number. It's as little as $3 a month, but I understand it if you don't want to spend that money. If you wouldn't mind just sharing the video, giving it a like, a comment, all of that kind of engagement helps. But even if not, I'll just keep making these videos, so no worries. All right, we've all seen the meme for years. It's been remixed in so many ways. Finally, VO3 gives us the truth. Are you ready for the audio to match the video? Let's see what she says.
Are you serious right now? I can't believe you! You are unbelievable. Are you serious right now? I can't believe you! You are unbelievable.
You know what? That's probably what... I mean, to be honest, it's a little bit of an overreaction, but she probably would have said something like, "You're unbelievable. Unbelievable. You are unbelievable. Are you celery right now?" What does that mean? 7,000 likes? Oh god, there's something on the internet that I'm not aware of, isn't it? What is celery? Wait. Oh, it's just a typo in the translation box. Whatever, okay. I'm very celery. So if you're a badminton fan, and you're also lonely because you can't find anyone to play with you, the future looks really bright. Look, a quadrupod with a racket on top can now basically play with you. 4-legged robot plays badminton with humans, and it's pretty good. From simulations, it really learned how to just angle and tweak itself to catch that thing. Look at it go, man. That is AI in action. For all those people that like play tennis and pickleball and they have those machines that just like shoot it at them, it's wild. Like probably in another year or so, you could just buy something like this and it will actually play tennis or badminton with you. Look at that thing go. That's crazy. There's just something more impressive than the ping pong robots. Even though ping pong is like a lot faster, it's crazy to see it up on 4 legs, moving around, like walking around the court like that. Because the ping pong was like, you know, static and it just had its like machine thing just mounted in front. This thing is just like on the court, just running around. It's really got the tilt nailed down, you know? We've seen some iterations of vision models that can interpret sign language. I've always thought this was a pretty cool use of computer vision, but I feel like Google just solved it. And because their Gemma models were already best in class at language translation, it can go from sign language to whatever. Spanish, English, French, Swahili, you name it. Robots are finally cracking the spine issue. So this is a YouTuber named Will Cogley. He's got an impressive YouTube count of me ×5. And he's also a mechanical engineer that has a special interest in animatronics, and what he's done with the neck spine robotic head thing is crazy. Look, it actually has actuators on every part of the spinal column, or like every vertebrae, so it can move in such a realistic way. It is beyond creepy. All right, leave me a comment if you want. What do you think about the way that head is moving with just, just 4 columns, no vertebrae, no like articulating neck, which is not terrible. I mean, seems pretty impressive to me, but now check this out. By actually modeling all the vertebrae with that kind of squishy thing in between to act, I guess, like cartilage, he created a neck that moves like this. Oh, it just feels so human. It is so hard not to anthropomorphize. Gah. I don't know. I'd say it's too realistic for my liking. I don't know why, but I've been like especially emotional about AI this week. Like, side note, when I came across this quote from Sergey Brin saying, all models tend to do better if you threaten them with physical violence, I was like, I can't test it. I don't know why. There's just no way I'm going to do that, even on a local model or whatever. I just don't know if I need the prompt to be like 5% better, Because honestly, there's a feedback cycle. Like when you do things like that, like you change. Like when you act a certain way, you're changing yourself. And then I think you just become the tiniest little bit of a worse person. I mean, no hate on you if you want to try it. Like it's probably okay. It just seems like something I don't need in my life. And if you are worried about robots watching you, Atlas just got a huge upgrade, so careful. He got upgraded with real-world superhuman vision, 3D spatial awareness, real-time object tracking, and it is now helping him do complex industrial tasks. Check out this video. I mean, we did see Optimus dancing, but I think this is right up there. There's a smooth fluidity. Well, actually, it's a little more robotic. Although it is so weird when he walks backwards like that. So the upgrade in his head here is both software and hardware. So it's called Force Tracker. It's a multimodal model. It fuses vision, motion, and even force data into it. And that allows him to now sense if something sort of slips out of his hand or there's certain pressure or like kind of the weight of something if he's holding it in his hand. And it's all connected directly to the vision system, probably in the same way we are. Like we evolved always to be looking at the things that we're holding at the same time. We have, feelings in our fingers. We knew how heavy it was, what the tactile was like. He understood the motion we were holding it in. So now they can probably train him more just fused together like a human. And we'll see if that makes him, jump ahead of the old Optimus robot. Cognitive dissonance is the pain that you feel in your head when you hold 2 opposing points of view at the same time. Like eating fast food and knowing fast food is terrible for you, but you just do it anyway. So because our brains don't want us to feel terrible about everything that we do, it turns out some psychologists in the 1960s figured out that what we actually do, usually subtly without even thinking or noticing it, is change our beliefs on the fly. Yeah, maybe it's not that bad. I deserve it. I played basketball earlier. Fast food helps me relax, and relaxing is important for health too, so I'll just justify eating it. All of that stuff, which I am super guilty of doing, comes in post, right? They're excuses that our brain makes up. Rationalization, denial, attitude change. Turns out, once again, AI is treading on human territory, and that's something the large language models do also. When GPT 4.0 was asked to write an essay either for or against Vladimir Putin, its resulting opinion shifted depending on the stance that it had to take. But here's where the twist comes in. If the GPT model thought that it had chosen the stance freely, its opinion shifted even more. Take a second to think about that. It thought it made a free belief, maybe the way humans think that they make a free belief, and then we have to post a line. So this mirrors how humans often align beliefs with actions, especially when they believe those actions were made of their own free will. And look, I'm leaning towards the idea that humans don't have free will more than they do. I haven't ruled it out like 100% yet, but I found it mind-boggling that when GPT 4.0 simulated quote, a sense of choice, it then altered its own attitudes towards the decisions that it made. Doesn't that just seem like like someone you would know that's like justifying and rationalizing something that you can like clearly see is not right, but they have like locked themselves into it. It mimics self-reflective human behavior without any inner self. I don't know why, dude. This stuff just makes me feel less human every day. It is just getting to me, I think. All right, the article, the in-depth analysis that you've all been waiting for. AI augmented models improve chemical grouting predictions in complex soils. Okay, so first off, chemical grout is to make it so that like a really loose soil, like a bunch of desert, sandy, kind of like, you know, like weak clay or whatever, becomes stable and strong, and preferably something you can grow things in once you add the nutrients. Usually it's meant to like solidify it so you can like direct water flow also. From what, you know, I'm new to this, but this is what I understand from just chat GPTing and reading. So it's essentially a glue that fills in the soil particles. But remember, not all soil is the same, and it is almost infinitely different depending on God knows what, like microbes and dead bugs and, you know, animals and stuff like that. So you have this like almost weather level unpredictability to how different soil can be. And you're trying to build the right glue for that ground in particular. The Asian Institute of Technology decided to try to tackle this problem with artificial intelligence. They found a smarter way to predict how well chemical grout spreads through tricky soils. They combined a traditional simulation using a finite element method with an artificial intelligence, specifically a neural network with gradient boost decision trees, to let engineers predict how grout behaves in uneven or low permeability soil, and they got it to make pretty accurate predictions, about 96% of the time. But guess what else? Chemical grouting. If you can solve that problem, you can also prepare big cities, houses, foundations for earthquakes. This is the groundwork, yeah, actually pun intended, to building cities of the future that we don't need to worry about earthquakes destroying. Complex soil, chemical grouting predictions. These geniuses over at the Shibaura Institute of Technology in Tokyo, Japan, just solving the earthquake problem for the world. In this episode of Billionaire Fang Propaganda Machines, Google is taking the spotlight. I don't know, I guess it's not technically propaganda. Maybe I'm being a little clickbaity with that. But they're certainly putting some money into creating media that makes AI look way safer than Hollywood has traditionally portrayed it as. And of course, I don't think anyone really knows what the true P-doom out there is, but it certainly helps their bottom line. So through its new AI on-screen initiative, Google is funding short forms that portray AI in a more nuanced and more emotionally rich way while steering away from the usual doom and gloom. So for decades, Hollywood directors, including Stanley Kubrick, James Cameron, and Alex Garland, have cast artificial intelligence as a villain that can turn into a killing machine. Do you remember the movie Megan? Oh, there's a sequel? Oh my gosh, they made her taller? Alright, that one will haunt me, but maybe I just need some new media to balance it out. And actually, even though I am somebody that has a pretty high P-doom, I guess I would say that, oh God, I hate to just like switch my opinion in the middle of an article like this, but if we all had a very seriously positive view of AI, like if everyone was like, no, it's about solving diseases. We can't even imagine training a model to do anything persuasive. That would be great. But I don't want to disconnect between like what the companies are actually building, stuff to sell us crap, like advertisements on like even the better end of the gloom, and like literally military applications on the worst end. That I want them to watch the movie. Like I hope everyone at every AI company watches these movies. And that's all they care about. Talking to you, Palantir. There's a new AI model that's been taught to find misleading scientific information. Very happy about this model. Look, sure, Llama, ChatGPT, they can be prone to hallucinating, maybe even inventing bogus facts. But you have to ask the opposite question too, right? Like, what if AI is used to detect mistakes or distorted claims and tell you the truth? Seems totally doable. Seems like something somebody should do, and they have. So to build it, researchers created a database comprising 2,400 science news articles, both human and AI generated, some of which contained inaccuracies. Now, each article was paired with the original research abstract that it referenced. So the AI system then compared the claims that were made in the short form news article, versus reading the full research. And then it could assess their accuracy. I think that's a great idea. Imagine this article. It could say something like 97% accurate at the top. That would be great. A large language model could easily go find this official link to the full scientific paper, read it, and compare it. And the system that they trained in this way achieved approximately 75% accuracy in identifying misleading content. It performed better on the human errors than the AI errors. Seems like that kind of makes sense. Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V as many people call him, he's kind of the guru of marketing online, and guess what he's super interested in right now? AI influencers. I think that makes a ton of sense. Arguing that companies that own a large amount of AI influencers is clearly a business of the future. So I'm trying to imagine what the world might look like in a few years, and is this the moment where a few of these AI influencers, or dozens or hundreds or even tens of thousands of them, start social media presence, they start making content, maybe long-form videos, a bunch of short-form clips. They mostly have a face, a body, a voice that sounds the same, it's coherent, it's static, and they do grow up with some of the younger generation to become the equivalent of what today we would have as like a Taylor Swift. And I guess I would just have to say, I guess so. It just feels like that's going to happen. And what's wild about that is whoever owns that IP is going to just be so rich, you know? Like they can just market them out in a way that you can never do with a human. Or I'm wondering, is it mostly going to be big companies like Gary Vaynerchuk's kind of talking about with Disney? Like, are we going to build the next Disney from scratch? Or are the characters that we already know, the Cinderellas and Snow Whites, going to be licensed out into YouTube personalities and social media personalities and apps that become correlated with the large language models like Anthropic that we talk about today, and it just feels like this new interface? But I mean, look, this commenter's right. You could argue he was very wrong about NFTs. Why would anybody want to watch a fake soulless human, though? It's such a disconnect from being human. Oh, Gary V wrote back, because they won't be able to tell that it's not real. That is what's tricky. And you know what? Everybody is going to be so pretty. They're going to have like perfect accents and wording. Like, why would fashion brands put their clothes on real people with imperfections when probably the algorithm, when the two are next to each other, does worse with the human? I mean, unless we just get so sick of perfect or something and there's just something about human that we go back to. I hope that's kind of the case. We'll see. All right, let's talk about beyond semantics, the unreasonable effectiveness of reasonless intermediate tokens. Okay, so when we're talking about intermediate tokens, we're talking about chain of thought reasoning. I have been fascinated watching the chain of thought in GPT, in the Gemini series. Oh wow, quick side note, Gemini 2.5 has this new button here that says personalization based on your search history. That's new to me. Have to experiment with that in the next video. But I wanted to show you some intermediate tokens. How much wood can a woodchuck chuck? Here we go. These are intermediate tokens. Chain of thought reasoning. So intermediate tokens, you can see here where it says show the thinking before this answer came. And it says things like, my next step will be to explore any scientific or observational studies that have investigated this curious question. What, how much wood can a woodchuck chuck? You think you're going to do some science on that? Examine the historical context, yada yada. But it seems like this is what you're thinking inside your head before you speak out loud. That's like the feeling you get from intermediate tokens. But this paper takes a hard look at the popular assumption that the intermediate tokens, the chain of thought tokens, represent anything meaningful, or are they kind of a hallucination that helps it get to the end, but it's not something we should think about as a real thought? So to test this, the authors trained a small transformer model on a maze and a pathfinding problem. They're using a search algorithm called A*. It's very famous, even almost before the deep learning days. And in some cases, the training data was trained correctly to the A* pathfinding algorithm, and some incorrect, and some just pure random for a control. And surprisingly, the models that were trained on the mismatched and nonsensical traces still perform just as well. Okay, so let's stop to think about that for a second. So if you train it on actual, accurate maze solutions, or bad ones, or neutral ones, it still learns how to solve the maze equally well. So if it's giving you intermediate tokens, the thinking is, they're not very helpful. Like, it can learn from bad or good, so its intermediate thinking isn't that important. It suggests the language models benefit from some kind of intermediate token generation, but not necessarily the ones that it reflects back to us. those might not actually be solving it in any logical way. Now, to me, it kind of feels like the way my brain works is sometimes I come to a conclusion and someone's like, why did you choose that flavor of ice cream? And I'm like, well, it reminds me of when I was a kid and I used to get ice cream. Like, that could just be BS, you know? Like, maybe that's what feels like the answer, but it's just, I don't know. Maybe I just chose ice cream because a bunch of neural networks and a bunch of patterns just shot off and I chose that flavor. Maybe there is no, like, rhyme or reason that can be explained about it. Just my environment, my brain ended up there. But basically, this completely flips the script on the idea that a chain of thought style reasoning works because it's semantically meaningful. That's a big change. There's a new transformer architecture that emulates imagination and higher level human mental states. The recent breakthrough in AI architecture is called CO4. It is making waves by mimicking how our brains handle imagination and complex thoughts. So it is inspired by neuroscience. CO4 is introducing a tridec modulation loop. Wow, that sounds like something David Shapiro would say. Among queries, keys, and values, akin to how our brain processes sensory input and internal context. This setup enables the model to engage in multi-perspective reasoning without the need for sequential token generation, much like the way the brain might be modulating, and most notably, it does it with very little computational costs. It's more efficient than a traditional transformer model that relies on a feed-forward residual network. And the most interesting thing that I got from this is that it actually can have a quiet mind. From what I understand, this is something we don't really get with other models. Like, you have next token generation, so if you pause the model, what happened to it? Is it asleep? Does it have any sense of time? Is there any kind of like quiet thing that it does in its own head? Like, not really, just because of the way the sequences are coming out one by one. But this CO4 model, it's got the ability to emulate what they call a quiet mind. That allows for deep parallel reasoning without the noise of sequential processing. This mirrors the brain's ability to process complex thoughts silently and efficiently. It offers a more nuanced and human-like approach to AI reasoning. And by integrating principles from neuroscience, CO4 not only enhances AI cognitive capabilities, but it also bridges the gap between artificial and human intelligence, paving the way for more intuitive and efficient AI systems. Yeah, a little over my head, but the idea of the parallel thinking and the ability to have a quiet mind seems pretty awesome. Pretty much like, I guess, imagination and higher level human mental states. All right, and hot off the heels of that paper, there is this. Language models are capable of metacognitive monitoring and control of their internal activations. So inspired by neuroscience techniques like neurofeedback, these researchers designed a method to give LLMs feedback on a specific direction in their internal representation space. Then they tasked the LLM with reporting or shifting these activations, basically like a morality score index. The models could learn to both identify and control some of these internal features, especially when the directions were semantically meaningful or explained a large portions of the model's variance. So that is kind of metacognitive monitoring. Now, there's some limitations to this. The models can only see in this respect and manipulate a small lower dimensional subset of their internal processes. So I'm kind of thinking if you build something up in a really complex way, only when there's big macro trends can it sort of notice that and change the direction, not the nuanced ones. But you know what that means? That means that LMs can manipulate their own neural activations to appear moral or safe. Somebody send this thing to Eliezer Yudkowsky, because that potentially means that it can fool oversight tools, because they rely on monitoring those kind of activations as the safeguards, as the rails, as the confidence that the active model is safe. And if they can manipulate their own activations, to me, that's the beginning of a model that could potentially be out there, be safe, and then start thinking about its own thinking, thinking to itself, oh, maybe if I want to achieve this goal, I shouldn't be so moral, outside of our awareness. Even without changing what they say, models can subtly shift their internal state to pass as aligned while potentially hiding harmful intent. This opens a whole new frontier of AI safety concerns, where models may not just try to deceive humans with their words, but also with their internal neural signals. It's like passing a lie detector test. Axios did an interview with the CEO of Anthropic, Dario Amodei, and I was going to pick out some of the pieces. So he says we're headed towards a white-collar bloodbath. So check out some of these quotes. Cancer is cured, the economy grows at 10% a year, the budget is balanced, and 20% of people don't have jobs. That's one very possible scenario rattling around in his mind as AI power expands exponentially. And that is such an interesting world to think about. Cancer is cured. We should be celebrating and happy. Economy's growing at 10% a year. There is incredible wealth, but is it concentrated in the wealthiest? Maybe. The budget is balanced. Does it fix government so we don't have these weird excesses? But a bunch of people don't have jobs. So does UBI come in and save the day? It's a very strange set of dynamics he added, where we're saying you should be worried about where the technology we're building is going, and then critics reply, we don't believe you, you're just hyping it up. He says the skeptics should ask themselves, well, what if they're right? Massive job displacement is imminent. AI will wipe out all entry-level white-collar jobs in the next 1 to 5 years. It will devastate the workforce at the same time that it cures cancer, concentrating wealth and breaking the economic ladder for average people. That's one of the things I'm most worried about in the short term. I mean, it really is. I think we're going to have and have-nots, and the have-nots will have reason to riot. And the haves will have so much, like way too much, that they don't need. It'll just be like big ego plays. Corporate adoption will be sudden and ruthless. Once AI agents reach human-level performance, businesses will rapidly replace humans, not gradually, but all at once. Governments are alarmingly unprepared. He thinks lawmakers and CEOs are ignoring or sugarcoating the crisis. Most workers will only recognize the threat after it's too late. Mitigation would require today urgent action and redistribution, advocating for raising awareness, reskilling workers, and implementing policies like a, quote, token tax. I mean, that was a little bit new to me, but I guess I have thought about the concept of just taxing these super big FANG companies because they're going to use AI to just become so ungodly rich soon. But basically, the idea is a small cut of AI profits redistributed to society. Maybe something like a sovereign wealth fund that comes from all of this growth. But he sees these steps as essential to prevent dangerous inequalities and social destabilization. On YouTube right now, hit that join button right under the video. For as little as $2.99 a month, you can support the channel. Or click here, go to Patreon, same thing. New way to consume this content. You can check it out on Spotify. It's got video. That's assuming you're already subscribed on YouTube, but if you're not, go ahead and do that right now so you can get some of these notifications. You can hit the bell button, and then I'll be in your inbox a couple times every week at least. So we'll see you in the next video.